Why is finding the right publisher for your game so important? And how to tell if a publisher is good or bad?
Welcome to our Indie Dev Insights video series.
In this series, we talk to indie devs about topics that concern them, like marketing, sales, funding, or publishing. For this video, Anna went to see Manny, the COO of the Hamburg-based indie studio THREAKS, and she had some great tips on how to find a publisher and negotiate a great deal for your game.
Let's find out what she said. I'm in Hamburg-Eilbeck on my way to the indie studio THREAKS. You may know their game Beat Buddy or Battle Planet. They were founded in 2009 and they develop multi-platform games for different genres for PC, mobile and VR. So Manny, thank you very much for letting us in and doing this interview. We want to know a bit more about you and your studio. So tell us a bit about your studio, what do you do and who are you and what's going on here?
I joined THREAKS 3.5 years ago and have been helping on the biz dev side but also in operations, so just making sure that everything's running smoothly. We're THREAKS, started up as a small team. We've ramped up to, I think, 15 people that we had this year. At the end of the day, we develop games. A bit of everything. We don't really have a focus like a lot of studios, so we've done mobile, consoles, PC, action, free-to-play, casual, VR, AR.
Can you explain in your experience how long it usually does take to find a publisher?
There are a lot of them. There's also a lot of lists online that people can find and download, so you can get an idea of what kind of publisher you're looking for and what kind of market are they covering, as well as what kind of funding that they're interested in supporting, right? So you have a lot of tiers of different publishers. The next step to finding a good publisher, on top of, go to Steam, find games that you're interested in or that are similar to the game you're trying to pitch, which publishers are actually working with those will be your top hit list. Any event, any networking event, you've got Nordic, you've got Gamescom, you've got GDC is a very important one as well. And a lot of local ones. They will be crucial to continue the pitching process and to get first introduction. So usually these meetings at events are also only 15 to 30 minutes. This is not enough time for you to impress people. It's enough time to get a good introduction. So if you can get out of those meetings an email address that you can send your pitch to and maybe a confirmation of a follow-up call, that's already pretty great. After that, it's a lot of waiting and a lot of pushing. So you're not going to sign your game within a couple of weeks. You're most likely not going to sign your game within a couple of months. If you're not, if you're new to the industry, you need the connections first. And even though the publisher might say no to your game, they might not say no to the next one. So every time that you're talking to people, it's important to continue the conversation. But down the line, you might look, or you really are looking at 6 months to 3 years of time between I have a game idea and I have a pitch that's ready to present and a contract that's actually signed on both sides. There's a ton of advantages with publishers that are supporting the indie developer. Some of them are very obvious, like they do the marketing, usually. That's a lot of work, which indie developers might not be aware of, but it's sometimes whole departments who are taking care of all your marketing needs, social media needs, community needs, and that's something that you don't have to worry about. To be perfectly honest, the biggest advantage of working with a publisher is the funding. Right? This is something that indie developers need to receive in order to finish games very often, and that's what a publisher can basically give you. What you're giving up against that is individual, depending on which publisher deal that you'll be doing. But at the end of the day, those are the two biggest advantages. Getting your game market ready through somebody who has experience marketing games and getting your game funded finished, basically.
So are there any disadvantages when working with a publisher?
I mean, sure. Depending on the contract that you have with the publisher, there could be disadvantages along the lines of you can't distribute the game on any other platform or with any other partner unless the publisher approves. You might need to ask for permission to release any social media posts, any videos. So the kind of fun aspects maybe of social media of indie developers might be gone if this is something that you find very important. Depending on the publisher and on the contract, there could be some clauses that involve also kind of first rights of refusal, which means if you're going to work on a sequel for the game, you'll need to pitch it to your partner first, and then they can say yes or no to the game before you can actually move on and find someone else. So if you have a lukewarm relationship with your first publisher and you think, well, I can just make a sequel to the game, the community is great, it's possible that your contract's actually going to bind you to that publisher for the whole IP. Some of the worst contracts that could happen, which I definitely don't recommend, is IP ownership. Not only are they financing the game development, but they will actually request that you give up the IP ownership of the game to the publisher. And then you're left with nothing as a developer, because you can't make a sequel, really, you can't make future developments or merchandise, any third-party kind of software related to your games or even physical goods. That's all going to be owned by that publisher. So it's a mixed bag. You can have a lot of pros and cons, but it also depends very much on what you agree to when you're writing down that contract. To know if a publisher is good or bad, I think your best bet is to talk to other indie developers or other developers that have worked with those publishers. You know, ratings on Steam or getting to see what users are saying about the publisher is one side of things. But really, what you want to do is talk to someone who's worked with them in the past and try to see, has that been a good relationship for these developers, or has it been a mediocre, lukewarm one? Today, people are much more transparent with answering these questions. Like, is it worth working with this publisher? Yes or no? You'll usually get a pretty good answer.
What are the common mistakes you can make when you go to a publisher, when you pitch your games? What should you avoid in doing?
So some of the biggest mistakes are actually ignorance. I would really recommend you to study your market. Who are you pitching to? Not only to the publisher, but think about it as a publisher. They need to market the game, so they're going to be asking you a question. What's your target audience? Who are your competitors? How many copies do you expect to have sold? And these sound like questions that the publisher themselves should be able to answer, of course, but they want to know if you're aware of what you're making as a product, not just as a passion project, which is cool because you've been dreaming about developing this game, but at the end of the day, they need to recoup their investment. And they want to work with a partner who's at least aware of this. You don't need to be a marketing expert, but to show that you've studied it a bit probably brings you a long way, to be honest. So a lot of the mistakes that we've done, they're difficult to avoid in the sense of you want to have publishers who are also guaranteeing a certain, for example, investment in market, right? They're going to be telling you, this is our plan of how we'll market your game. These are the investments that we want to make, and these are the people that we want to work with in order to get your game out there. And this should be in a contract, preferably really well written out with timestamps, with investment money. Even if it's a percentage, for example, they say, hey, we'll invest 10% of the revenue per month back into marketing. You want to see that in the contract. Also, the ability to repurchase the rights for the game, so that there's a clause in the contract that will actually allow you, in case things go wrong as a developer, that you can cancel the contract. My pro tip to indie developers is read contracts. If you're in Hamburg and you have a publisher that's German, a lot of the contracts are in English. So you need to be really comfortable being able to read these. Some publishers even publish their contracts online. Raw Fury has done so, I believe. There's a few other publishers. Just go ahead, download them, read them, see what people are saying about them, then just learn what's good and what's bad. And always get a lawyer. At the end of the day, no matter what happens, a lawyer will better be able to tell you if you're making huge mistakes, if you haven't noticed any problems, and get lawyers that are also experts in the video game industry, or at least in IP contracts, which is what we're dealing with basically when we're licensing out our games.
Thank you very much for watching the video. We hope you liked it. We hope you can take something away from this. And if you want to know more about the Indie Dev Insights, check out our channel and our website.
And if you really enjoyed this video, subscribe to our channel, leave us a like. If you have any further questions, shoot us a message, and see you next time.